And welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important IU basketball stories from the past 7 days. This is our 96th edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 428th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of Thursday, October 4th, 2018. I am your host, Jerod Morris. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes the shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment occurred on Monday when Don Fisher made his weekly appearance on the Dan Dockett Show. Fisher made a couple of comments that really caught my ear. First, he singled out Jake Forrester for high praise due to his energy and athleticism. He also compared Forrester's work ethic to Zach McRoberts, who, as you may recall, was introduced at Hoosier Hysteria as, quote, the hardest working man in college basketball. Now, why does this matter? Well, because Fish has seen a lot of great players don the cream and crimson. He knows what to look for, and he doesn't just pass out praise too lightly. I still remember Fish saying that Juwan Morgan had a chance to be one of the, quote, special players to play at Indiana University, and that was prior to Juwan's sophomore year when no one was talking about him in those terms. The other comment Fish made, and this one might be even more important, is that he can't remember an IU team with this combination of size and depth since the 1975 squad. And look, anytime you were mentioned in the same sentence with that team, something is really going right. Now, no one thinks this year's Hoosier squad is going to go undefeated in the regular season, but Fisher's comment does reinforce the drastic roster makeover that Archie has completed in less than 18 months on the job. X's and O's are important, but you still need the Jimmies and the Joes to compete for banners. And no less an authority than the great Don Fisher clearly thinks Indiana is, at the very least, back on the path toward competing for one someday again in the near future. Okay, now let me introduce my esteemed co-host for this week's show. To my left, it is not the Sean McVay of girls' youth sports coaching in Cincinnati, the president emeritus of the Robert Johnson Fan Club, and one of the world's best bracketologists. No, Andy Bottoms has the night off to attend the Chris Stapleton concert with his wife, and if you close your eyes, you can probably see he and Jen swaying and singing along to Tennessee Whiskey right now.
Used to spend my nights out in the ballroom.
Let's go live to Andy right now for a report on the concert. Andy, how is it?
This is fun. Hey, put Jen on the phone. I want to talk to her.
Dude, would you let them have their night?
He ought to be fired.
Oh, jeez. All right, good Lord, you two. Well, filling in for Andy tonight, he's a 10-year high school head coach in Indiana who is currently an assistant coach at Western High School. He is the host of Sports Talk with Tonsoni, the founder of the Delphi Bracketology Club, and clearly someone who is angling to be the first president of the Archie Miller Fan Club.
Look at me, I'm Archie Miller. I really, really like Archie Miller. I have a mad crush on Archie Miller, and I trust Archie.
Thank you.
He is the coach, Brian Tonsoni. Coach, what's on your mind this week?
Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. There's a lot on my mind. Love that practice has started this week. I think practice is so important. I know we all appreciate the games being played, and November can't get here soon enough for the fans, but practice is really, really exciting at this time for the coaches and for the players. So the other issue is that the players want to play people too. They've been going in the spring, they've been going in the summer, they've been going in the fall. Now you have regular practice, 20 hours a week, and they're kind of anxious too. So as we're waiting for November, I'm sure the coaching staff and the players want to play people, whether it's a scrimmage or an exhibition or a real live game. They can't wait till November either. So just crossing days off the calendar is what I'm thinking about.
Okay, and now to my right, making his triumphant return to Assembly Call Radio, he's a columnist for The Big Lead and a co-host of The Hangover, but you know him as Indiana radio's most opinionated, polarizing, over-the-top personality.
I pretty much have an opinion on everything.
He is Ryan Phillips.
I do this for a living. Trust me.
Ryan, what is your rant this week?
You mean polarizing in a positive way, right? Because
of course,
the plus side of the polls.
I just think you have strong opinions and you make people take sides. Polarizing.
And they always take my side or else they're wrong. I think this week really what is on everyone's mind is just the fact that we're now it's started. Things have started, and it's a beginning. And I think after Hoosier Hysteria, we were talking about, and I brought this up, and I'm glad Don Fisher echoed it, that this team is long, athletic, and deep. And it's, I think it shouldn't surprise us just knowing who is coming in, but I guess seeing the product on the floor for the first time, even in a, kind of fooling around setting, it wasn't a serious practice. It really did sort of bring that to light. This team's got some serious depth and talent and a lot of length. And while I think we all look at this year with Romeo Langford as something that could potentially be really special, I've been talking about it for the last couple of months. I think next year is going to be just as exciting, if not more so, because there's so much depth, and these guys are going to be back again with a year under their belts next year. I am really, really looking forward to that. But of course, as Coach said, you're just peeling days off the calendar now. I've got my desk calendar that I'm just excitedly peeling days off every day. So really looking forward to what's going to come over the next month and as we get into games and everything.
All right, well, here's what we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk a little bit about secret scrimmages, why you would have one over an exhibition game. We'll talk about the importance of Archie Miller naming and announcing captains. And then we're going to do some buy-sell on some of the most common narratives emerging from Media Day and Hoosier Hysteria. And then, as we always do in our last segment, we will answer your questions. All of that is coming this week on Assembly Call Radio. Before we start talking about secret scrimmages, I want to remind you about the best way to shop online for great deals on IU basketball and football tickets. Just remember this URL, iutickets.shop. It will take you right to SeatGeek, where you can immediately find the best deals on IU basketball tickets. Plus, you can search for IU football tickets, other sports tickets, concert tickets, and more. As a bonus, you can use the promo code ASSEMBLY to get $20 back after your first purchase. And just so you know, when you use that URL, iutickets.shop, we actually get paid a commission for referring you. Andy, quick, what's one word that you would use to describe that setup?
Majestic.
Nice. How about another one?
Fantastic.
Yes, majestic and fantastic, because all people have to do is use that URL, iutickets.shop, to access SeatGeek to buy their tickets, and we'll earn commissions that help us maintain and expand the show. So when you need tickets, visit SeatGeek and use our URL to do it, iutickets.shop. Once again, it is iutickets.shop.
Thank you.
Okay, so news broke over the weekend. Jeff Goodman broke this news. I think he's at Stadium or WatchStadium.com now, is where Jeff is doing his writing. But he broke the news that Indiana had scheduled a secret scrimmage with Loyola Chicago. And this is for sometime late in October, like October 27th or 28th, something like that. And Coach, I kind of started thinking, and we see these secret scrimmages pop up. And I believe the rule is if you do one of those, then you can't have a second exhibition game. Like you couldn't do two exhibitions and then have a secret scrimmage. So I started thinking, why would you do a secret scrimmage that you can't invite fans to? You can't open up the gates and make money on. Why would you do one of those instead of an exhibition game? And you and I were just talking about this before we went on the air, so I thought you had some good insight on that. So why would Indiana do something like this?
From a program standpoint, having a secret scrimmage is really good in developing the program, because the quarters and the segments can be scripted in agreement with the two coaches. If they want to see a pressing segment and those things, they get the Loyola coach Moser and Archie Miller will get together, their staffs will get together and kind of script out how they play. I'm sure the NCAA has some rules on how long it can go and so forth, but within that, the coaches can really use it as a glorified practice, only you're playing against other people. You get that on film, you get back in the film room, but the coaches can be on the court. A coach has liberty to stop something in the middle. It's not dependent on television and officials and the 40-minute true game segment. I wouldn't want to see two secret scrimmages because I think you need to get some game-like reps in, and that's what's good about an exhibition. But I really think that it's important to get game-like scenarios, but a little more structured in a practice setting. That's why I think secret scrimmages are a good thing for most programs to do.
And Ryan, I feel like even though they're supposed to be secret, no one's supposed to know. I feel like we always find out like the scores or the results of them from, on message boards and in different reports and things. So, I'm trying to angle so somehow we can get in there and do a secret post-game show afterwards, but I don't think it's going to happen. So
one last. If it was a secret post-game show, there'd be no promotion, Jerod. Come on. You got to think here. Do I have to do all the thinking on this? No,
we would make sure the chat mob got to see the secret post-game show.
Well, then it wouldn't be a secret. No, I mean, and they call these secret scrimmages. It's really just a closed door scrimmage. That's all it is. I mean, in high school, this is what scrimmages are. Like preseason scrimmages almost certainly are. Is you script out what's going to be the situation. You break it up as coach said. You break it into quarters, and maybe you say, okay, hey, we'll agree to like not have anyone post up one-on-one in this segment. We'll just do driving and scoring off of that way. Let's shorten the shot clock for everybody. Let's do this, and it just helps you with situational stuff. So that's really the point is that they can have a control over it, because hey, in a preseason scrimmage, we've seen this before. They just sometimes get out of hand, and you don't really work on anything. You just run, and that's not what you want, because you want to actually get better. Now, look, when sometimes you do want to get out and run and you want to do stuff like that, but clearly if you're going to do something like this, you want it to be more structured. You want it to be more, okay, we're after the first quarter, we're closing the score off. It's starting 0-0 again. Let's go out and do that. I mean, there are ways to do it and manipulate it so you get something out of it, so it doesn't just turn into either a route or, some guy fouls out and you really want him to keep playing and things like that. So there's all kinds of factors that make it so a structured scrimmage is the right way. And so people are calling this a secret scrimmage. It's really just closed door practice with another team, it feels like. And yeah, there might be a score, but I think, really it's just a practice with another team. And I'll tell you what, I mean, going back to when I was in high school, playing against other teams makes you so much better than playing against yourself, because you're used to playing against the same guys. These guys have been playing together in some cases for 2-3 years, and even the new guys have been playing all off season against the same guys. Getting a new look, getting someone else thrown into the mix is a real positive. And so as many of those opportunities as you can take, whether it's public or closed door or whatever, you got to take them.
Well, if they were playing an exhibition game, it would be a different opponent. But in this case, you're playing a team that made the Final Four last year, Loyola Chicago, sure. And is still, their preseason rankings at Bart Torvik were somewhere in the mid-60s. So, I mean, they're still supposed to be pretty good for
quality opponent for sure,
for a team in their conference. So, I mean, I guess the way to look at it, too. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I guess the way to look at it is it's one less time, to see the team before the season starts, but hopefully it results in seeing them many more times at the end of the season, because you get better and it pays dividends down the road. So, any final thoughts on the on what we're now going to term the closed door scrimmage with another team instead of secret scrimmage?
I mean, I just think that it's a good idea, and I understand why they're doing it. And I'm sure fans might be upset that we don't get to see Loyola in Indiana, but I think it's just what it is, and it's just another practice, and we don't get to see practice day to day, so it's the same thing to me.
Yeah, Coach, any final thoughts?
I was always a big proponent, and I'd try to work with the coaches in high school not to keep score. Maybe set us down 5 with a minute or so to go, but the score is really, when these things get reported, it really does not say a whole lot. So if Loyola scores more points than Indiana, that's not a whole lot to take into a concern because of the scripted nature.
I promise we won't overreact if we find out the score, whatever it is. All right, coming up on the Assembly Call, we are going to discuss something that was made public this week that hasn't been made public for as long as really anyone can remember. Team captains. Does it matter? If so, how much? We're going to discuss that next. Stick with us. All right. And cut on segment number 1. Ryan, I think you hit your mic a couple of times and it made some noise.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's this fucking wire. Excuse me. Freaking wire.
God dang it. Now we have to denote this YouTube video explicit.
Or you could bleep it.
That'll be okay. It'll be okay. Actually, I don't think we have to do that on YouTube. It's only if it ends up in the podcast that we would get in some trouble. All right. Well, nice to see so many folks from the chat mob. It was great to see so many of you at Hoosier Hysteria.
Sorry about how long was that segment?
13:45.
Yeah, it went fast.
Yeah, so we got about 10 minutes for this segment. Actually, 9:55 for this segment.
So I'm trying to. By the way, if you hear something going on over here in the break, I'm trying to tighten everything up so it doesn't move.
No, yeah, do it now. Do it now. All right, let me send out a quick tweet. The Assembly Call dump button. Yeah, we need a dump button at some point. I'll get a setup that has a.
Yeah, but the dump button actually cuts out like a few minutes. If like it cuts out like 10 seconds on either side.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can go back in the audio and hit a bleep, can't you?
It's a pain in the neck, but I mean, I'm not going to do it on the YouTube video. It's not that big of a deal. It is not that big of a deal. I'll see if you actually have to denote that. But Josh says AC After Dark already. We haven't had a good AC After Dark in a while. Did you listen to last week's show?
I didn't get a chance to. No.
I like how you say you didn't get a chance. Like normally you do.
Actually, I do. I typically will listen to it. I don't listen to it like the next day. I'll listen to it like over the weekend when I'm driving around.
Oh, we did. We spoke very highly of you at the end of last week's show. How you really bring a lot to the Assembly Call After Dark segments.
Well, crap. Now I got to listen to it.
I started telling some story about my travel plans, and I got mocked for it because it was not compelling. It wasn't like a Coach K rant.
Let's remember that Coach K rant was not Assembly Call After Dark. It was a
that was actually a planned segment. That's right. But it was the culmination of many Assembly Call After Dark
teases. Yeah,
teases and insinuations. So.
I'm grabbing another water. Hold on.
Okay, I'm gonna tweet out. Let me tweet out the YouTube link real quick, and then all right. So, Coach, for this segment, so we'll talk about the importance of naming captains. Kind of making them public. And then kind of what that means, especially within the context of a program that has had an internal leadership roller coaster for many years, it seems.
All right.
So I'll go to you first with it and then kick it over to Ryan.
Yeah. After that Coach K rant, I got a text from Mr. Sterling about it.
What did he say?
Oh, it was positive. I mean, Ken, he loved it, but it was hilarious.
That is awesome.
I got many thumbs up emojis from friends. I don't use emojis, so I have to.
I don't really either.
Well, people just dump them on me because they know I don't use them.
Someone said link to the Coach K rant. Oh, man. It's probably like 15 episodes ago. I'll have to go find it.
It was in the offseason or like the beginning of the offseason sometime.
Did we put it in the headline? We might have put it in the headline.
It has to have been. Well, you search Twitter for it.
You search Twitter for it, or just go back. In our YouTube history. It'll be one of the ones that has a number. It'll be like
because if you search like Assembly Call Coach K, you should be able to find it on Twitter.
Yeah, and if not, I'll find a link for it later on.
Jerod,
all right,
what Chad just put in there that goes on the AC Greatest Hits.
The Greatest Hits album.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah,
that could be a good segment. Just putting together the best rants.
Oh man. I know we need it from henceforth. We need to start tracking them, like get a spreadsheet together, and so we can remember.
Apparently in March of 2016, I called him a dirtbag. That's on Twitter.
Let me say that Coach K has done a lot for charity.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's do a segment here.
All right, I'll keep looking.
Chad says episode 366. Wow, that's a long time ago.
Really?
We've done a lot of episodes of this show.
What number is today? I wasn't listening. No, I was muting in the process of muting some things.
428.
428. Okay. I'll be honest. I wasn't listening to what Jerod was saying. I wasn't at all listening to what Jerod. See,
it's really sad that there's actually a drop for that.
Your drops definitely need to be used in between breaks, not during the show.
I know. I'm going to start using them. Okay, I try to plan them out. Okay, did the intro fall flat? Pulling in the Chris Stapleton.
It was almost like you used it. You overdid it with this Chris Stapleton music. I think would have been enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying. I'm trying to push the envelope a little bit. Okay. Well. All right. Let's do this. Let's talk some IU basketball. Let's talk some hoops. Okay, you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, 9:55 for this segment. Okay, here we go. You are listening to the Assembly Call. If you want to get replays of our show, listen to our daily Banner Morning IU news updates, or subscribe to our free IU basketball email newsletter, visit assemblycall.com. And if you ever want to watch the replays of our unedited live broadcast, then check out our YouTube channel. Those replays include all of the between segment banner that doesn't make it into the radio show or podcast edit. And on a recent episode, that included Andy revealing some of his innermost thoughts and feelings.
Dear Diary, today
Now, what were those intimate revelations? You'll have to check us out on YouTube to find out.
I sat around and drank beer and watched basketball today.
All right, fine. Or we'll just reveal them here. I'm Jerod Morris. I'm here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni. And Coach, you brought something up when we were planning the episode to talk about, which was, Archie named captains this week. Juwan Morgan, Zach McRoberts, they're going to represent Indiana at Media Day. They're also the captains. And no one can really remember, the last time that captains were named or that they were announced. As Alex Bozich noted right afterwards, this is the first time in at least the last 10 years that Indiana has publicly named team captains. Didn't happen under Tom Crean. It didn't happen last season either. So what is the importance? I think we all understand, kind of the importance of having team captains, but what's the importance of kind of making that public? And given the context of what we've seen from this program just over the last few years, how important is this role that Juwan and Zach now have?
I think it's an important role when you are named captain of a program. I understand why coaches don't, because leadership is just really hard to define and hard to teach. You try to do it as a coach. Younger guys might be your better leaders, but even if you have a sophomore who's one of your better team guys, it's hard for a younger guy to be a true captain or a true leader. These are two seniors who have been through injuries and been through a transfer. They have come to Indiana and given Indiana everything they've got. And that's what Archie really appreciates. And so I think that's easily why they have been named captains. So the thing is, the big thing is a player-led team is always going to achieve more than a coach-led team. And when the players take care of the locker room, when the player takes care of things that the coach doesn't have to worry himself with, then the coach can work on X's and O's and diagramming plays and doing all of those things. And it just makes for a better practice, a better cohesive team. Publicly, I think it just shows those guys that the coach appreciates what they bring. And I think it's good for recruiting, saying that you come here and stay for 4 years. We may bring in a Romeo, we may bring in some 5 stars, but there is a role for a good 4-year player at Indiana to be a big part of what Indiana's trying to achieve, and that's to hang another banner. So I think that's fascinating that it was done. A lot of coaches have gone away from that, but I think that speaks volumes for what those two young men bring to the Indiana program and what we can see coming here soon in November.
Ryan, Juwan Morgan seems like a pretty obvious choice. What does it suggest, if anything, about Zach McRoberts' role on this team that he's a captain? Like, does that we all think that he's part of the rotation beginning the season, but that seems like a pretty strong statement of what Archie thinks of Zach.
You said that Juwan was an obvious pick. I think Zach's an obvious pick too. Given the work that guy's put in, what you hear from Archie Miller when he glows when he talks about Zach McRoberts, and nothing to be concerned about. It's not like a nuclear thing. He's just happy. But he is effusive in his praise of Zach, and he's another senior, and I think that senior leadership is something you're short on this team, and I think that to have that and to have two guys like Juwan and Zach who know what college basketball is all about, know what their roles are, and know what they can do, not just for themselves, but for the young players on the team, it's enormous. And as Coach said, they're examples of what Hoosier basketball is about. I know Zach's only been here for a short period of time. He hasn't been here the full 4 years, but he's a guy who has worked and earned everything he's gotten from this program. And those are the kind of guys you want leading your team. I think captains are a good thing because on the court, you have someone is in charge. And it is interesting that IU, I was not aware that there hadn't been captains for that long. I knew there was a year or two we didn't know who the captains were or who they didn't get announced, but I did not know it had been that long. And that's kind of shocking. But it gives you two guys who everybody can go to, who everyone can look to, and who everybody knows are a leader. And I think that both those guys certainly fit that bill. And it gives guys something to aspire to, a person to aspire to, and a player to aspire to.
You're listening to Assembly Call Radio. I'm Jerod Morris here with Ryan Phillips and the coach, Brian Tonsoni. Let me ask you this, Coach. Do you think that there was any particular strategy with it this year because of the recruiting class that came in, and it's such a ballyhooed recruiting class, and you have a guy like Romeo who's going to get so much attention. Like, he is undoubtedly the star of this team. Do you think this was at all Archie just kind of planting a flag that like, look, we've, this young recruiting class, we've got the star and Romeo, but these guys are the leaders. And instead of just leaving it, not necessarily leaving it to chance, because I think Juwan has a strong enough personality and maturity and role on the team to take that on anyway. But this really solidifies it to everybody. Do you think that maybe the incoming guys had anything to do with that, or not at all?
I think slightly, maybe. You always want to take care of everyone and make sure everyone sees their role and enjoys their role. And if the younger group is coming in as more heralded, that could cause problems. And by naming captains, but I don't see that in Archie. I don't think Archie's going to play games. I think Archie named these guys captains because they are what Archie likes in his basketball players. They're seniors, more so that they've been through the grind for 3 years for McRoberts and 4 years for Morgan. I think it's more of that, and I don't know, but I think it's more of that than we need to balance out the notoriety or make the seniors feel important because the younger guys are being talked about a lot. I don't think Archie plays that way. I think Archie says, get on the line if you're Romeo, or get on the line if you're Juwan, if he's not doing well. I just think that's what I see in Archie. He's a no nonsense guy, and he's not going to do something that's pretty. He's going to do something that is meaningful. And I think this naming captains was meaningful for the betterment of the program and to reward guys. But I think it's long lasting. I don't think it's just this year. I think it's saying to guys like a Demezy, to Jerome, guys that might not be a one and done, two or done. You have potential in this program and are big in this program. And if you do what we ask you to do, you too can lead us to the next level. So I think it's very calculated and very well done, more so than it is to stop anything negative.
Yeah, I think I agree with Coach. I think that this is about the two guys who won the captaincy. I don't think it's about anybody else. I think it's a reward for these two guys. Now, the ancillary benefit is younger guys see, okay, if you step up, you're going to be recognized for that. You're not just doing this to do it. And a guy, the guy I thought of, and Coach, of course, mentioned, younger guys like Demezy and Jerome Hunter and other guys. And there's certainly more guys who could, Rob Finnessy, guys like that. But the guy I thought it was Devontae Green. I mean, he's a guy who, if he buys into the team concept, he can wind up being, it's an honor forever. That never leaves you when you say, I was a captain at Indiana. That's a huge deal. And it's a huge, thing for your career, and to look back at your career in 4 years and be one of the rare players who got to say, I was a captain at Indiana and I was picked by my coach to be a captain. It's not a popularity contest among your teammates. It's your coach rewarding you for your effort and what you've done and meant to the program. That's a big deal. And so it's something for these guys to look forward to, that, hey, that's going to live on long past me being out of here. I get to be on that list of guys who've been captain.
Between the chat right now and the names that you guys just mentioned, I think about half of the remaining roster has been mentioned as potential captains for the future. You guys mentioned Devontae. Obviously, there's a lot of young guys that kind of feel like they have that in them. And I think maybe, Coach, quickly here, that kind of speaks to the culture change that Archie has instituted as well, and some of the guys that he is brought in, and also to the credit of the staff before, some of the guys that were holdovers from that staff as well. Because one guy that we haven't mentioned, who I think is almost certain to be a captain at some point, is Al Durham. I mean, he's got captain written all over him when he's a senior.
Yeah, and it's another signal, too, that you got to withstand the struggle. Even though they're a talented freshman group, they're going to struggle to adapt to practice. They're going to struggle in games. And Juwan has struggled, and Zach has struggled at Vermont, and then taking a year off and then walking on, and to fight through the struggles, and you can be productive. I really think it is a great message that Archie's sending for two great men who represent Indiana basketball.
Absolutely.
Well, let's remember,
Ryan, we got a break. Okay. We got a break. All right, coming up, those of you who are listening on the radio Friday night may be switching over to high school football, so be sure to catch the replay at assemblycall.com. For everyone else, we're dissecting some common post-hysteria narratives, starting with a couple of guys in the backcourt. Stick with us here on the Assembly Call. Yeah, sorry about that. We were right up against it.
Yeah, no worries. I had no idea. One thing I will say, and I'll just say it for the people in the chat who are watching, one of the great things to remember is that when Juwan was a recruit, and we talked about this at the time when he was still in high school, he said he saw the problems going on at Indiana. He said that made him more excited to get there and like help change the culture. So, I mean, you look at that guy, he wound up being a, being a leader and being a captain. And so you can really tell a lot about a guy as a recruit, what they say, how they act, and all that stuff.
Someone said time for math without Andy. Chad, we got this. We're right at our time for those first two segments.
I'm going to turn my light on. Hold on.
28 minutes for these next two. We got this. Oh, Allison said the players picked the captains. Though I'm guessing Archie wouldn't have done that if he didn't have a pretty good idea of who was going to be selected.
I did player votes for a long time, and they always voted for who I wanted. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Somehow the votes counted up the way that it needed to be counted up.
Yeah, but that is a good point, though, Allison. I'll mention that at the beginning of the next segment.
And I'm from Chicago, so that tells you, that the voting procedure, or close to Chicago. But yeah, you can. There's ways. Sometimes, like in high school, where they vote for the homecoming king, and it's really they're messing with somebody that's not right, and we got to deal with that kind of stuff. So sometimes you just. But it was amazing. Of all the years that I was a head coach, they always voted for the guys that I wanted to be captain. They were in tune.
Mm-hmm.
Tomfoolery.
I think the coaches can really steer guys to vote for certain people, though. I think, by making them a focus a bit, it's kind of like subliminal advertising.
And literally, who else are you going to vote for this year? I mean, those are the two seniors. Juwan's the star coming back. Zach is like the leader in terms of work ethic. Your only other senior just got here from St. Mary's. So,
yeah, I could see Devontae if his teammates really liked him, but nobody's voting for a sophomore, or a freshman. So
put the two seniors on the ballot. Okay. Everyone vote.
You can pick two guys.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, just be like, guys, you can vote for two people and just hand out a ballot with only two people. Everybody has to vote for two.
Oh, yes. All right. So this segment, we'll do some.
By the way, everybody, the Brewers won. If you're watching, it's in extra innings. If you had to turn off the TV to go to this, I just want to let everybody know the Brewers won. I have lots of happy friends right now in Milwaukee.
That's right. You lived in Milwaukee.
I did. Yeah, we worked together. Thanks. I appreciate you not remembering where I lived.
No, I did remember. I said you lived in Milwaukee.
I did. I loved that town. For the 6 months, for the 6 months it wasn't winter. That is a great town.
Summerfest is fantastic.
One of the best, man. One of the best months in any city ever. I was shocked when I moved there how many great acts they get to go to Summerfest every year. I think it is the world's largest music festival right now.
Is it really?
Yeah. And it's unbelievable the acts they get.
Like 7-8 stages.
Yeah, it's enormous. And every night there is a headlining level act, like one you would pay to see anywhere. And then I remember one year so Harley Davidson has a big headquarters there. And every year they would do for the Harley Davidson birthday, they would do like a big concert and all this stuff. And I was there for, I think it was the 105th anniversary. And for a week, 24 hours a day, Harley Davidson's driving around the city. 24 hours a day. Like I had to buy earplugs in my apartment because I could not sleep because it was just those things. And then when you put the earplugs in, you could still feel the vibrations from all the Harleys driving around. It was insane.
Beer, cheese curds, and music. It doesn't get any better.
It's true. That town, if you've never been, folks, I recommend going up during the summer for a weekend or something. It's a really fun town. It's a very you think of Wisconsin as being super rural and people being shut-ins because it's always cold. But during the summer, that is a super active outdoorsy town. There's a 5K every weekend. There's bike races every weekend. There's everybody's at the beach on the weekends because it's on Lake Michigan. And then you can't throw a rock without hitting a bar. There are 4 bars on every block. And they're all great. They're all unique. They're all different. So It's a really, really fun town. My alcohol consumption since moving away from Milwaukee has dropped precipitously.
Okay. Is the city paying us for this?
I mean, you can contact us if you want.
Yeah. Assembly call brought to you by Milwaukee. Chad says this segment brought to you by Ryan's Yelp page.
It's fair.
All right, let's do segment 3. So we're going to do some buy-sell on some common media day hysteria narratives. So I'll just set them up and you guys can knock them down.
All right.
We'll go through as many of these as we can and maybe leave like 10 minutes for questions because we got several good questions.
Good.
So we actually had a 20-minute segment last week, which is the longest segment we've ever had.
That was like our first segment, wasn't it?
No. I'm talking last week on Assembly Call Radio when you weren't here.
Right. Yeah.
No, the first segment today was only 13 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The third segment is always the longest.
Third is always the longest.
It's during high school football season when we get cut off for Ron
cutoffs.
Colley. So yeah, we only get 24 minutes for the first 2.
Ron Colley football.
For Ron Colley football. We need the Hoosiers to start winning. So Ron Colley football gets cut off for Assembly Call Radio.
Yep.
Come on now. How this needs to go. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Assembly Call. I want to let you know real quick that if you're a serious IU Hoops fan, then you need to be subscribed to our free IU basketball email newsletter.
There's a high-level operation going on out there.
You will get our 6-banner Sunday news roundups, as well as our detailed post-game analysis emails once the season begins. This content is why more than 6,000 of your fellow IU fans are already subscribed, and joining them is easy. Just text IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com. That's IU to 66866 or go to assemblycall.com.
Make no excuses.
Can we get some basketball, please?
Okay, back to talking IU basketball. I am Jerod Morris. I'm here with Ryan Phillips and the coach, Brian Tonsoni. And we're coming off a week where we had media day, we had Hoosier hysteria. So after a long off season, we've gotten a few snippets via social media, but this was really the first time that we got to hear from guys. We got to see guys play. So there's been a lot of narratives that have emerged since media day and since Hoosier hysteria. And so let's run through some of those and let's do a little buy, sell, or hold, kind of how you're feeling about these narratives. The first one that I want to bring up is about Devontae Green. And it's this narrative about, Devontae really being fully bought into Archie's program and ready to be consistent. We heard comments from Archie, heard comments from Devontae about how last year it really took him a little while to transition to the new staff and to really buy in, to trust what was going on. And that when he did, we saw some of those better performances in February. And Archie said it led to a really consistent offseason. And what he hopes, obviously, is more consistent point guard play from Devontae this season. So, Ryan, we'll start with you. Are you buying or selling a more bought-in and consistent Devontae Green once the season begins?
Well, everybody keeps saying it, so I kind of have to buy it and take them at their word. I think that we kind of have all been waiting for that to happen with Devontae, and there were times last year where it looked like that was happening. And then, you'd have setbacks. It was 2 steps forward, 1 step back at every, what seemed like every other game. But from what we've heard from Archie and what we've heard from Devontae, it really seems like he has matured a lot. He's a lot more focused. And I don't think that him not being bought in was a choice. I think it was just kind of the going about things the way he'd always gone about it as a player. And I think that this offseason sort of woke him up to being a more mature guy and being a more focused guy. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I think that that's absolutely something I've got to buy just because everybody seems to be saying the right things here. And that's a real positive for Indiana.
So, and I've been really positive about Devontae, contemplating even joining the fan club. But I think on this one, I'm going to hold, not because I don't believe what everybody's saying.
That's a fair stance. It's a fair stance.
Yeah, and it's only because I kind of want to see it. I got caught up at the beginning of last year talking myself into the idealized version of every player. And it bit me in the rump. It bit a lot of us in the rump because that team wasn't nearly as good as we thought they could be because a lot of guys, just kind of played how they were. We didn't necessarily see big jumps. And so I kind of want to see it from a guy who's been so inconsistent over 2 years, but I do feel positive. So it's like a hold buy. It's like I'm ready to buy, but I just kind of want to hold and see it. Because if you recall last year, we saw Hoosier Hysteria, the exhibition games. He was just outrageously good. And then, struggled once the season starts. So I want to be fully in, but I can't fully embrace it. So I'm going to classify myself as a hold. Coach,
let me quickly add just one thing about this that I think is a factor for me. It's that the guys around him are going to be better, so he doesn't have to do as much when he's on the floor. Last year, he got in trouble when he tried to force the action as opposed to just orchestrating. And I think this year he's really not going to have to do that as much.
And he kind of had to because we had so few offensive options last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Coach,
I'm probably a hold sell. If
Whoa.
You can, not to bring any negativity, until I see it consistently, that's going to be a key issue for Indiana basketball, in my opinion, is point guard play, and specifically Devontae Green. Sometimes it's hard to get a player to change the way he plays, and that is going to be a task that Archie's going to be working on. That's going to be a task. I agree with everything that everyone said. It looks good. But at times last year, it looked good. And with Al pushing and Finney pushing, there's really very little room for him not to do it. But I'm kind of in a hold pattern, leaning the other way just because a lack of consistency.
All right, so there's Devontae. Let's talk about
way to bring that enthusiasm crashing down.
No, I should have started with you. Okay, so Hoosier Hysteria, Devontae Green. We got to make a list of things that Coach is down on right now. Okay, Al Durham.
I'm not down on him. I'm just from a coaching standpoint. The changing players like that is a really difficult task.
We understand. We're just messing with you.
Right.
Get it.
So I just want to make. I caught a lot of the Hoosier Hysteria stuff and had. Ducked Megan and I had to duck the wings at Buffalo's the other night. So clarify that a little bit.
Okay, let's talk about another backcourt guy. So Al Durham. And the narrative has kind of been that he is maybe the most improved returning player, ready to shoulder a bigger load. A lot of people have been talking about his shot form. Shoot, I had Kent in our community, Ryan, asked if Al's been working with the shot doctor. He asked if that's where you've been taking secret meetings to work with Al because his shot.
I have not gotten a call.
Not yet. So, Coach, we're going to start with you on this one. Are you buying or selling Al Durham? Let me see how I want to phrase this. Al Durham as one of the most improved returning players and someone who's a definite for the rotation.
I'm buying that. I'm going to buy that Al Durham is the most improved. The word most is difficult because I think a lot of players will show improvement, but his shot just looked consistent the other day. He looks to be in a lot better physical shape as all of the players do. But he looked solid in the scrimmage and in the 3-point contest. So I'm gonna buy that.
Ryan? You buying Al?
I'm kind of in a hold spot with him, not because I don't think he'll be improved, but this on our sheet, it says the most improved returning player. I don't know if he'll be the most improved returning player. I think we may have to go with a guy we're going to talk about in a minute, and so I'll bust it out then. But I think that I think he's going to be improved, and I think there's no doubt. I don't know if anyone's questioning if he's going to be in the rotation. He'll be in the rotation.
Yeah, that was a silly thing to say. He's a lock for the rotation.
Yeah, he'll be in the rotation for sure. So I don't have I'd say that I'll hold on it because I think that he's going to be improved and he'll be good and he'll certainly be a part of the rotation, but I don't know if he's the most improved player.
Yeah, I'm going to hold it too. The early returns are good, but what I want to see from Al is being able to do it when the talent level, kind of ratchets up, the games get a little bit tougher. Can he still be as aggressive? Because what I thought he lost in the second half of last season was some of that aggression. And he didn't make the big mistakes, but his confidence kind of ebbed and flowed. And when he was confident and took it to the hole, we've talked about the numbers, how good he was in pick and rolls and driving to the basket. Like he's got some things he does.
That right-handed floater, man. Right-handed.
But, if his jump shot really is improved, then that's really going to open some things up for him. So, it's kind of a hold by, kind of like I am with Devontae. But I think with both of those guys, I just want to see it because I think it becomes so easy to get caught up in the offseason narratives. You can forget what you actually saw with your own two eyes when they were playing last year. So I want to see it from those two guys first. But I think what's really encouraging is Indiana's guard play could be a lot better than what we think if these guys live up to what's been talked about in the offseason. And that's a big sign because that's this team's biggest question mark. And if they can answer that question, it's a team that has top 10 talent. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Okay, let's talk next about
San Diego guy.
Evan Fitzner. So Evan Fitzner, he is just wowing everybody with a shooting stroke. It is, just people are writing poetry about it. They're singing songs about it. They're making sculptures of it. I mean, it's taking Bloomington by storm. So, Ryan, I will start with you since you are our resident Evan Fitzner expert, since he's a San Diego guy. Are you buying Evan Fitzner as a starter?
I'd like to apologize to everyone I know who went to Francis Parker High School in San Diego, one of my high school's rivals. I will say, no, I don't believe he's going to be a starter. Maybe due to injury early in the season when, nobody has stepped up to really fill the Deron Davis role. Maybe he starts a little bit, but if we're talking like in general, in the meat of the season, I don't think he's a starter. I think he's a specialist off the bench, a guy who can stretch the floor. He's got enough length to do some stuff defensively, but I just don't think he's going to be a guy they're going to be relying on for 25, 30 minutes a game. I really think that he's going to be a guy who comes off the bench, can stretch the floor for you, spreads everything else out. And most importantly, I know a lot of people are really excited about his shot, but what having a big guy like that on the perimeter does is it opens up driving lanes for everybody else because you pull that defensive big man out of the middle, opens up, makes the paint just wide open. And I think that is what his biggest contribution is going to be. Because if you look at the number of three-point shots guys make in a season, their ability to stretch the floor is far more important than actually hitting the shots because it opens up the offense. And that's something that Indiana did not have last year, and it allowed everybody to collapse the paint and make it really difficult for this team to score. Getting guys like Fitzner and other shooters on this roster are a big deal because you need them to stretch the court out, stretch that defense out. So I am selling him being a starter, but I'm buying him being a key piece off the bench.
Yeah, we got this question on the podcast on the Brink mailbag we did, and I kind of said it was a question similar to this. I kind of said I was siding toward him maybe being a starter, but now with the announcement of McRoberts as a captain, and I think thinking more about, what does Archie value the most? Archie values defense. And so I think it's going to be one of those two guys who's starting because Devontae, Romeo, Juwan, and Justin are going to be starting. So I think it's between McRoberts and Fitzner for the other starting spot. And I think you can make the case that maybe Archie wants better shooting and would want to have a guy like Fitzner in there. But I think Archie's his priority would be getting off to a good start defensively. And Zach McRoberts is his defensive tone setter, and it's his captain. So I think Zach starts and Evan, comes in off the bench. And obviously when you have a guy who can come in off the bench and knock down a couple of threes, that can provide you some good momentum. So I'm going to sell this, but Ryan, like you said, buy him as a huge key piece of the rotation. It may be a little matchup dependent, but I think he's going to be a really important player all season long. Coach, what do you think about Evan?
As a starter, I'm in a hold pattern until you see what the rotations are. Sometimes your best five guys, your best unit is not who you start. And to bring a guy off the bench who can knock down threes can give you a boost at that 12, 13, 14-minute mark when people need a rest. So that's why he wouldn't come off. And I think it's going to depend a lot on defense. If he can guard and shoot, then he might have a chance to move in. It's going to be interesting. Is Archie going to go with the smaller five? Or is he going to put a big in the five spot? The guy we're going to talk about next, I think, has a chance as well, possibly, of moving into that starting rotation. But with the depth, you have starters are nice. Bench players might even be better and better at playing against the second unit of the opponents. So I'm going to hold on that. I think he's good enough to be a starter at some point. I think he's probably better off the bench, but I'm going to hold.
You're listening to the Assembly Call. I'm Jerod Morris here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni. We're doing some buy-sell on some of the most common post-media day and Hoosier hysteria narratives. Ryan, did you want to jump in and make one final point on Fitzner?
Yeah, I think that one thing you have to remember with Fitzner is that he might, as you said, it could be matchup dependent. He could start a few games, but I think if you're looking at, okay, who are the starters, like the guys you point to, the five guys who will start the most games, I don't put him in that category. But yeah, if there's a matchup dependent, if there's another, stretch 4, stretch 5 that you need to defend, maybe he's the better guy because he has those long arms and can get out there and defend it a little better than some of the other guys. But I don't think that that's a guy who's going to be consistently in the starting lineup.
Okay, let's hit a couple more of these here pretty quickly. Ryan, we'll start with you on this one. Race Thompson, are you buying or selling Race Thompson being ready for a spot in the rotation?
I'm buying no matter how expensive it is. This is a guy, we talked about who's going to be the most improved player, and I think that you have to throw Race Thompson in that based on what we saw in high school and then what we saw in Hoosier Hysteria, what we're hearing from people. We've been talking him up, since he stepped on campus last year and redshirted. I just think that there's so much there that this guy can do. And I think he could be angling for a spot in the starting lineup. I mean, he's just such a well-rounded player, and he's bigger than he looks on film. He's bigger than he looked in high school. He's certainly gotten the physical part going for him. And yeah, it'll take him some time to adjust once the games are real. But I think this guy's going to be real good for Indiana.
Coach, you look excited over there.
I'm buying big time as well. I just think spending that year as a red shirt, we've talked about the programs that have done that. I think that's a benefit. And he wasn't just someone coming in learning the ropes. He was very talented in high school, and then gets a whole year to get ready. And I think, Jerod, you mentioned something on the Hoosier Hysteria post game about, I think he was guarding Justin at one point and made it difficult. And Justin takes a questionable 15-footer, didn't allow him to go baseline. If he can guard a 3, 4, and a 5, and he can knock down maybe a 15-footer, and they say he can stretch out to 3 a little bit, maybe not super consistent.
He did in high school.
Yeah, so that's just like that's a defense and not to the level of Fitzner's shooting, but another threat. And if he can score with his back to the basket, I just think that's a guy that's really going to move up the rotation. Again, maybe more as the season goes on. Yeah, that's a big buy.
Yeah, and Archie just loves his physicality, his willingness to mix it up. Everyone in the chat agreed, so I think we all pretty much agree that Race is going to be a rotation guy. Okay, one more for the segment. There's probably others that we can get to. Maybe we'll do it on a future episode, but one more here. How about Jake Forrester? Or, Coach, we'll start with you. Are you buying Jake Forrester being ready for a spot in the rotation? Maybe not at the start of the season, but let's say by Big Ten play, are you buying Jake Forrester as a guy who is playing a key role on this team?
I'm going to sell that, but questionably sell that. I think Jake's going to be an energy guy. I think he's going to find his role to come in at some point and give energy. And I don't know that by Big Ten season he'll be part of the regular rotation. It wouldn't surprise me from what we've heard. Don Fisher on the Docket show was really talking about him, and there's been nothing but good things coming out of the Indiana camp about Forster. But there's you're talking 9 to 10. And Archie might start with 8 until everyone gets on board. I think there's a lot to learn. He was impressive at Hoosier Hysteria. It would not shock me if I was wrong on that. But I think he's going to be a guy that Archie's going to throw in there to get a little juice going, to get a little spark going offensively, defensively. And the freshman inconsistency still concerns me, a la Al Durham and Justin Smith, with him being a huge part of the rotation.
Ooh, Chad, or Ryan, Chad just said Jake is a Sheehy type energy guy off the bench. Buying or selling Will Sheehy comparisons, player comps for Jake Forrester?
Selling, so heavily selling. Forrester, I'm going to hold on, though, as far as a rotation spot. I haven't seen enough. And I think that's just fair at this point to not seen enough. And B, as Coach said, I mean, not everyone can play. There's going to be limited minutes. And if we're looking at a key spot in the rotation, I just think he might be the odd man out, not because of his ability, but just because this is a loaded roster. We've talked about it. There's a lot of guys on this roster who can play. And so I'm going to sell for now, or I'll hold for now, but I really have to see some more.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat with you, Ryan. I think there's a lot of potential there, but and we're going to talk about this. We have a question coming up that talks about the rotation. And so we'll get into some of that. It may be hard for him to crack it just because of the experience issue and how much talent is going to be around him. All right, coming up in our final segment, we're going to answer some of your questions, including the importance of Rob Finney's development and the guys that we think are most likely to be left out of Indiana's rotation when it shortens come Big Ten play. That's next. Stick with us. All right. 17:52 on that segment. Nice work. We have 10 minutes and 3 seconds for this segment. which means that we actually have 9 minutes and 27 seconds. Who needs Andy?
I think you guys
Go
are
to your
going
Chris Stapleton concerts, Bottoms.
I think you guys are going to spend a lot of time talking Race Thompson and Jake Forster.
I think Race for sure.
Race for sure. Jake is going to come in and win a game or two with just a massive rebound or a floor-to-floor rim run dunk, gets the assembly hall going crazy, and then
his role reminds me of what, like when I project his role and I think about what he did, it reminds me of Freddie McSwain late in the year last year. Now, Freddie was playing a lot more minutes than I expect him to, but that's the kind of just run the floor, get to the rim. Like it's not about technical stuff and making post moves or whatever. It's just run and jump and cause havoc for now while we develop the rest of your game.
And Jake has more, what's the best way to term this? Functional basketball coordination.
Yes, absolutely.
Freddie McSwain has.
Yeah, Freddie looked like a football player. I mean, he really did. He looked like a guy who should, one of those guys who goes to the NFL and plays tight end, honestly. Hold on a second.
That was a really good unsolicited player comp, by the way. Really appreciate that. It was good stuff. What
did you guys think of Finney Saturday? It's such a short time. I know overreaction.
I didn't see much. I mean, honestly, I just couldn't. He didn't
look a little to me.
He deferred a lot.
First time out there at Assembly Hall. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it wasn't about the guys who didn't show up. It was about the guys who did, and so you just didn't have like enough of a sample size. So it's like the guys who did make their mark. And I think I was talking on the post game, the post Hoosier Hysteria show, is that like that was a 15-minute scrimmage with the clock running. There could have been, if there was another one afterwards, all the guys who shined could have been terrible, and the guys who didn't, I mean, so it was so quick. You wonder if you're just getting a practice segment where one guy plays really well and then he's terrible the rest of the practice. I mean, that's true. It just wasn't enough time. I'm going to grab another water.
Yeah, I got to find, where is the question? There's Josh's question. Okay, we got a voicemail question, and I forgot to load it into my soundboard. But now I got it.
I thought he would be a little more fluid. And again,
but he's
from a scrimmage in that situation. So maybe we shouldn't even talk about it. But
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to judge any. Like I would give, if a freshman comes out and looks really comfortable in an environment like that, like Jake Forrester, I think you give him maybe extra credit. But I wouldn't take anything away from a freshman
that was kind of my point.
Didn't quite seem comfortable yet, because I think everything that you hear about him, he is just rock solid, and so.
Good point. I think looked comfortable.
Who?
Obviously, Jerome Hunter, right? I thought he looked okay.
Yeah.
Comfortable in the environment. I thought Jake did, and I thought Race really did. I thought Demezy had the shakes early. Again, I like your point of don't take anything away from those who had a little bit of a hiccup, but really praise the people who came out.
Yeah.
In that's probably the best way to look at it.
Well, you take the example of what those guys showed, and look, I don't think Race is going to dominate the way he did in that scrimmage, but you take the fact that, okay, well, he can do this, this, and this, and this. That's not going to be constantly, but it's kind of, I don't know. It's just, you can take positives away, but yeah, it's hard to automatically get down on guys for not showing up, because it was just a 15-minute clock running scrimmage where they were trying to show off for people, I mean,
yeah.
So it was fun. It's cool. It's a nice little experiment, but so here's a pre-assembly call after dark thing. I remember when we were covering my senior year, we were covering what was then, I don't know if they called it Hoosier Hysteria yet, but whatever it was in 2005.
Midnight Madness, wasn't it? Wasn't that what it was called back then?
I don't know if they actually called it that, because I think that was
that just like the generic term for it.
That was the generic term for everyone's, but I think that was one of the first years where they could do it before midnight. And it was like the NCAA granted the waiver to some schools to start at like 7 or whatever. And I remember my two co-reporters from the IDS were there, and they were covering it very seriously. Like they were taking notes, and they were like, like trying to, oh, hey, this guy looked good, and like all this stuff. And wow,
who would take notes during Hoosier Hysteria? What a loser.
Absolute loser. But they were taking like detailed, like playing notes, like, okay, these rotations were out on the floor together and all this stuff. It's like, dude, it's a scrimmage. Like,
okay, yeah,
I mean, it's like, yeah, no, I mean, it's one thing if you're going to do a show and you mark some things down, but they were like hardcore, like practices are closed. We're getting a look at a practice. I'm like, this is not a practice. But so we went in, and it was Brian Janish and Andy Romy and I, and we went into the media room afterwards, and Mike Davis was there, and he was in like a sweat outfit. Like he wasn't, he was taking it as mildly serious as everyone else. And I remember Andy turns to him and goes, "So, what do you take away from tonight? Like, what did you learn about your team tonight?" And Mike Davis looks at him and just goes, "Nothing." He's like, it was just guys clowning around.
He had that right.
And no, but I mean, it was just like, that's how seriously coaches take these things. He's just like, nothing. It's just guys clowning around. And that was it. And that was the end of the like detailed explanation. Like he was having fun with it when we were asking questions about like the dunk contest and stuff. He was like, "Oh yeah, this was cool. And I thought this was awesome." But like he asked him, "What can you take away from me?" He's just nothing. And that's true. I mean, you take things away from practice, not away from a showcase. So that's for all you guys out there, all you Mike Davis fans out there. That's one of my favorite Davis stories.
So tomorrow, make sure that you listen to our Hoosier Hysteria postgame show, where we spent 50 minutes breaking down the scrimmage and everything that happened at Hoosier Hysteria.
And what did I say the entire time, Jerod? You can't learn. You didn't learn anything. It was fun.
It was for fun. Got some good reps.
The best thing about it was all the audio, video, visual stuff, all that, that you learned something. But as far as the team goes, I mean, you learn that so-and-so can jump high and so-and-so can shoot threes well with a partner. Like, I mean, it was,
Yeah.
I learned you can't bring an iPad into Simon Scott Assembly Hall.
Well, that's your fault. It's
Ubered from downtown and almost got booted. And I had to sneak in.
How did you snuck it in?
Yeah.
Man, he's running from chicken wings on one end of town and running from security on the other end of town.
Yeah, I wasn't
nice little Saturday that you had there, Coach.
I wasn't going to go, and then Ben Malcolmson guilted me into that. He had a seat saved for me in a good spot, so I Ubered. I left my car because I'd been at Buffalo's for 3 hours, so I Ubered and had all my stuff with me, and then they wouldn't let me in.
Good job, Ben Malcolmson.
Way to go.
So then I had to find the nicest looking lady, and I walked up, just talked to her, and she said, "Here, let me have your iPad," and put it around the thing. I went in, and then all was well. But
don't try this at home.
No, don't bring your iPad.
Leave it to the professionals.
A basketball game.
Okay. This Chris Stapleton concert may be over soon. If we don't finish up the show, Andy might be able to pop on, give us a Chris Stapleton post.
All right, let's get this thing done then.
Wait, you're not a Chris Stapleton fan?
No, I'm great. Chris Stapleton.
Okay, here we go. Let's do this. My wife is not a Chris Stapleton fan.
She's crazy. I don't even like country, and I like that guy. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Southern rock, baby. I love it.
I'm a fan. I am a fan. Okay, let's do the real quick. You guys don't need. You guys know what questions are. You can see. Yeah. Okay, let's do this. We have 9:27. So I'll post a few updates in there. But if I start waving my finger, then we're getting close.
Yeah.
Little Dikembe Mutombo action. Here we go. Okay. You're listening to the Assembly Call. We are wrapping up another week of talking IU basketball. I'm Jerod Morris here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni. It is time to answer your questions. Remember, you can always send us questions via Twitter, or you can leave us a voicemail with a question throughout the week. Just call the number 317-762-6253. That is 317-ROB-MAKE, and you can leave us a voicemail, and we will get your voicemail on the air. And so we will start out with the one voicemail question that was submitted this week, and this comes from Josh. Here is Josh.
Hey there, Assembly Call crew. My name is Josh Wilson, longtime fan of the show, and I really enjoy our chat mob family that we've put together. Quick question. I think Peegs put it out today about Rob's fantasy and how a lot of veterans have said he has come the furthest. How important is it going to be for him to be successful and come through those freshman growing pains? So I appreciate it. Love the show. And as always, thanks, guys.
Coach, let's go to you first on this. You obviously coached against Rob Finney when he was in high school, and we were just, talking about him in the scrimmage and how he didn't necessarily stand out, but yet all of the reports that you hear from people who have seen practices, they've really just been effusive in their praise of Rob. His teammates, as Josh alluded to, have really talked about how solid he is. We talked earlier in the show about the improvement that we are hoping for from Devontae and Al. So given all of that, how important is it that Rob comes in and is able to be a productive player as a freshman?
I think it's extremely important because I think he's a true point guard, which is run the offense first, score when you have to second. I think Devontae likes to score a little bit, and he will run the offense, and I think L is a good point guard. But I think Finney is that true point guard. And watching him when we played against him, he took the whole first half getting everyone else shots as the defense was set against him. And then later, as adjustments were made, then he got his own points. I just like the mentality that I saw as a high school senior. It's a lot different in college. But that if he progresses, as people are saying, he pushes the other point guards. And I'm telling you, point guard play is going to be very, very, very important for Indiana. So as good as he gets, he makes the others better and pushes them and plays well himself. I think it makes Indiana better.
Ryan, do you have anything on this?
Yeah, I think that his most valuable contribution, I think he'll be fine on the floor, but I think the most valuable thing he's going to do is push Devontae Green. And I think that if you have somebody forcing Devontae Green to get better, that's the best solution here for Indiana's point guard woes. And that is to push the starter to be better. And competition breeds that. And I think we've seen it everywhere. Every great program, competition breeds that. You want to know why Alabama's good in football every year? Because their practices are harder than some of their games. Like it's having guys pushing you and knowing that you constantly need to get better because there's a guy right behind you that's coming to take your job. And so it's about going up against the best in practice, improving, and then knowing you have to constantly be improving or you're going to lose your spot. So I think that's going to be his most valuable asset this year. But I think moving forward, he's going to be a fantastic player for Indiana because he is that true point guard, that pass first point guard that I think every great program needs to have.
Let's hit Lauren's question real quick. We'll just do this as buy sell. She says, do you think the free throw percentage will go up this season as a team? I just want to say I don't even want to fathom it not. I think if the free throw percentage doesn't go up, I might be looking for a new program to cheer for because it can't get any worse. So can we all just at once say buy that we're buying the free throw percentage on this team going up?
If you sell it, you're never allowed on the show again.
Yeah. And if it doesn't happen, oh my, let's just not even fathom that. So yes, we do think the free throw percentage will go up. And it's not just like wishful thinking. It's because guys who shot really poorly last year, Deron Davis, Juwan Morgan, have a track record of being better free throw shooters than that. And I just think overall the shooting will be better this year.
It just felt contagious last year. It really felt contagious.
It did. Okay, so this question is from Robert. So after seeing the scrimmage last weekend, who are the 3 to 5 guys that you see being left out of the rotation after this season? Ryan, do you want to take this real quick? I mean, I'll tell you right now, and tell me if you disagree with any of these. In for sure, I have Juwan, Romeo, Zach, Justin, Evan Fitzner, Devontae Green, and Al Durham. I have those guys in the rotation for sure. In probably, I have Robert Finney, Race Thompson, and Jerome Hunter. I can already see where you're probably going to add Race to in for sure. And the question marks to me are Clifton Moore, Demezy Anderson, Jake Forrester, and Deron Davis. I don't think I left anybody out, but let me know if I did.
I think your first 8 are right. I think it's going to be Morgan, Langford, McRoberts, Justin Smith, Evan Fitzner, Devontae Green, Al Durham. But I also think that Race is definitely going to be in, Race Thompson. And then Jerome Hunter and Finney. I think Finney has to be because you need a backup point guard, a true backup point guard. And I don't see Al Durham as a pure point guard. So I think that you're going to have Finney and Durham likely playing in the backcourt together.
We're at 9, and that's already a 9-man rotation right there.
That's 8. That's 9, and then Clifton.
That's not even counting. That's not counting Jerome
or Deron Davis.
Yeah, or Deron Davis.
So
we got some talent this year, fellas.
Yeah, and look, there's a chance that maybe somebody redshirts. There's always going to be injuries. You don't want to talk about that, but there's always going to be guys who miss, even if they're not out for the season. They miss 6 games because of whatever. So those things work themselves out as far as having a normal rotation. It's a great problem to have, is to have too many guys. And it feels like that's what they have right now. But I think that you've got to look at that top, 6 or 7 and say that's pretty solid. But those bench guys, those deeper bench guys, hey, with the way teams play nowadays, up and down, you need a lot of depth. I mean, you're making line changes sometimes, and so it's great that they have that depth. And a guy like Juwan won't have to play 35 minutes if he doesn't have to. And
it could be matchup dependent. When Duran gets healthy, there may be games he plays 20 minutes, and there may be games he plays 2 because the matchup just isn't right.
Yeah.
So same thing with Fitzner. Now Fitzner will probably play more just because of the shooting. But Coach, what do you see?
Archie said something that if this team's going to be as good as it can be, they need to play 9 to 10 guys, and that team chemistry fit, right? Well, when you had your top 7, and I agree that Race has to be in the top 8, then it is freshman progression. Finney, Jerome, Demezi, Jake, and I see that being Finney, Jerome, Jake. How are they playing as freshmen? We saw Al again and Justin go up and down. When these freshmen are up, they're going to be in that 9 or 10. When they're down, they might be that 11th guy. But that would be the 11 right there. I think Clifton Moore's got a lot of work to do. Demezi Anderson's got a lot to work to do, and Duran's got to get healthy. Those are probably the bottom 3. And then it's just how they're doing, how they're playing and pushing each other. But I think those 8 are definitely the 8 that the season will start off in some fashion.
Yeah. All right, this is from Anthony. He says, if we're lucky enough to land Keon Brooks, and I don't think it'll be lucky. I think if we land Keon Brooks, it's going to be because the staff does an outstanding job recruiting. And, of course, we have the in-state bonus. But if we land Keon Brooks, do you see enough skill versatility between he, Jerome Hunter, and Justin Smith to play everyone decent minutes between the 3, the 4, and even the 2? Do any of them have the shooting and foot speed needed to play the 2? So, Ryan, as you fantasize forward and you like looking at next season and how good it could be, say Keon's here. Do you see he, Jerome Hunter, and Justin Smith being able to play together?
Well, I think the problem with this question from Anthony is that he assumes that guys have to fit into a 2-3-4 role. I think that they're versatile enough to sort of play that swing perimeter. Like, you don't need a shooting guard on the floor. You just need wings and a guy who can sort of sneak down to the post. And really, I think all 3 can do that. And with Jerome, if you're asking me who is the most likely to play a shooting guardish role, I think it's probably Jerome Hunter of those 3. But those 3 guys can all be wings for Indiana and all be perimeter versatile guys who can get inside and out. And so I think that's what we're going to see. I think there's certainly those guys can play together. We're moving to a point in basketball where the numbers, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are gone. It's a guy who can bring the ball up, wings, and a post, maybe. So that's what I think, and I think that certainly those guys could all play together, and it'd be really fun to watch.
Coach, quickly, how bad would the nightmare be if you had to face a team with those 3 wings able to play at the same time?
If I was on the other side, it'd be a nightmare. But I'm wearing Indiana. It's going to be great to see. I think Jerome is the 2. They're trying to work him in with the guards now this season with that idea this year and possibly next year. Length, athleticism is great. Bring it on.
Yep. Okay, well, that'll do it for us on this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording, or you can always subscribe to our podcast by searching for Assembly Call wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Thank you for listening. We will be back to talk IU hoops again with you next week. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
Well done, gentlemen.
Patriots are just spanking the Colts.
What's the score?
24-3 in the beginning of the third quarter.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
All right. Good show. Good having you back, Ryan.
Try and make it every once in a while. For those who don't know, I've just had a crazy busy last couple weeks with work, and I needed to take last week off if we were going to do the Post-Hoosier Hysteria show. So apologize, but we got the busy schedules coming up here soon. But see that I can excuse, like when there's games, I can say to people, no, I've got a game to cover. I've got like whatever, so it's that I have more, but the off-season shows, yeah, it's tougher to
like. Wait, you're talking college basketball in the off-season? Did anything happen this week?
You're talking in June every week about this? It's like, yeah, no, that's what we do.
What is there to talk about? Hey, look,
Nothing.
Jerod spent time on Synergy breaking down the advanced stats, okay?
Yeah,
There's
I
plenty
know.
to talk about.
Yeah. So in the off season, it's just harder to, to convince my work because I'm the guy on Thursday nights. It's hard to convince work. Oh, by the way, I got to take 2 hours out and do a broadcast.
Yes. Even the National College Basketball Podcasts take time off in the offseason. Not this one.
Nope.
That's right. Because we serve the greatest fan base in the country.
You are such a kiss ass.
I mean,
it's true.
These are my people. Yeah. I'm just speaking honestly. That's all I'm saying. It was weird being in Bloomington without you and Andy.
I know you said that. I know you just missed us.
I did. We
can't let you go anywhere by yourself
because the Lotus Festival was right outside my Airbnb. I really did not plan that out very well. So
what is the Lotus Festival? I'm not even in on what the Lotus Festival is.
I wasn't either, but it's been in Bloomington for like 25 years. It's like a music and culture festival. So it was good music.
Where was your Airbnb? What part of town?
Right on 6th Street, off of Washington.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it was nice, and it had a little upstairs, like a little balcony. So it was cool. But
was it just you, or were you sharing it with people?
No, just me. Just me.
It is after dark. Speaking of after dark, Jerry, we heard some chat mob stories at Nick's the other night.
Oh,
we
yeah?
we had a hole in one at the golf outing. Kent Davis had a hole in one, and one of our guys beat up Ollie.
Yeah. Yes, Ollie from Hoosiers.
What?
Hoosiers.
He beat him up?
Chat mob guys got into a collision at home. Joel Wonder got in a collision in a baseball game, youth baseball game, high school baseball game, and they kind of went at it.
Wow.
I refuse to believe that's the case.
Ollie, I mean,
he told us the story.
Look, I've seen Ollie. If you're beating him up, you should probably rethink your life. He's a little guy. I mean, that was the whole story. He's a little guy.
Joe looks like he was a good size catcher, though. It would have been, I'd have liked to seen that. Joel's been at the tailgate, and then he came out. David Kirk stopped by and bought us some pizza. That was very nice of David. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and Megan's mom called me out for promising to buy her a T-shirt 2 years ago that I forgot about.
Dude, how do you forget that?
I promptly went home and ordered her the T-shirt right away.
How late were you guys at Nick's?
I ordered 2 T-shirts because just in case I need to send them out somehow. It was so tough on Jerod.
We were next to like 10:30, I think, something like that.
Oh, come on, guys! On a Saturday?
Hey, I had to go back and post the show.
I know,
and I'm old.
I'm just messing with you. Did you fly out Sunday morning?
No, Sunday night.
Okay.
Met with Michael and did some stuff around town.
Nice. How was your presentation at the media school?
Presentation was good. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be there, and Galen texted me the day before and said 38 people had signed up, and I was like, wow. I was like, okay, so probably 10 will actually show up because it's Friday afternoon at 2. Who's gonna come see some guy that does a podcast talking about podcasting, and there were probably 30 people there. Like nice. The turnout was really good. So clearly there is a thirst for info on podcasting. It was cool to see that much enthusiasm about it.
I was telling Galen we should do a class one time, like one of his classes, and just sit there and broadcast from it and have it be like just people asking us questions about cool. What we do and stuff. I mean, you can talk about all the behind the scenes stuff. I could talk about, not only podcasting, but my career and other stuff. And, maybe get Zach or someone else who lives there to come by and be a guest on it or something. Do it like sort of, you have some of those NPR podcasts or whatever, do that. They'll go to university, and sit there and do interviews and stuff.
We could do that. I've talked with him about doing a small course, like over a couple of weekends or something like that. So we're going to definitely do some more with him. So that's a good idea. But
we come in the spring, we're coming in March. That's kind of late, but I was thinking like, if we came in on like a Wednesday and then did like a Thursday class or something like that,
Yeah, no, I think that'd be cool. I'm all about it. They want info on podcasting. So,
well, I think, and that's, just talking to any of the students, whenever they reach out, sometimes they reach out via Twitter and stuff. I just tell them like, be versatile, learn how to do a podcast. I don't, but you should. But learn how to do a podcast. Learn how to.
You want to learn the technical stuff? You want to learn
No,
how?
I'm good. I'm good.
Post production.
Maybe when I get a new computer, I'll learn to do that. Mine is, I try and do anything on it. It's friggin' slow. But yeah, I tell them, learn how to write, learn how to, sit on the radio and do an interview, learn how to write a script for a radio show and outline and how to attack it, to do that for a podcast.
Yeah.
Write for a newspaper, write for online. Like there's just so much different stuff you can do.
They don't let anybody write stuff online.
They will. They really will, Andy. Thanks. But the other thing is learn how to edit. That's the biggest thing, because if you know how to write, that's one thing. If you don't know how to take editing and you don't know how to edit other people's stuff, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yep.
So
I got my high school guys doing a lot of that on just my own little website. I even got a 6th grader who's doing a 4 to 5 minute podcast segment.
That is awesome.
He calls himself the Gleasonator. Hello, this is a Gleasonator with the who's hot and who's not.
Dude, that is awesome.
He's got 2.5 pages of script, and he can't pronounce. We've working on him trying to get the players' names right, and he keeps messing them up. But he keeps coming back. He's going to do 4th week tomorw.
That's so great, man.
It is hilarious. And
I think one of the keys that people don't do when they do like a podcast or do something like that is a lot of people don't listen back to themselves because they think that, well, that's just arrogant to like listen to my own show. It's like, no, you need.
Well, it's painful.
It is. No, it's
especially
really
in the beginning.
Yeah, but you need to listen back because then you're like, oh crap, I need to do this better. I need to do this better. And I wouldn't. A lot of times I wouldn't listen to this. Why am I making my audience listen to it?
You know what's awesome? He'll probably look back someday and cringe at that name, but it's so great that he is like early on kind of figuring out the importance of branding and kind of having a niche and like kind of like something to grasp onto. It's so important. So man, that is so great, especially that young. He's so far ahead of the game.
Yeah,
you're doing good work, Coach.
You are good work.
Sometimes I had to rewrite 2 articles on Friday night for game previews. We do try to do 2 or 3 game previews, and one of my guys had Winbush starting at quarterback after he'd been for Notre Dame after he'd been pulled the week before.
Yeah.
So we got to talk about accuracy of research and.
Dude, when I was editing for
class, it's just a club.
When I was
editing, make it okay.
When I was editing for Bleacher Report in the beginning, oh my God! Like, luckily, when I started working full time at Bleacher Report, they put me in charge. Well, I was on a writing team, and then they put me in charge of a group of professional writers, which was great and it was easy. But my goodness, when I was editing for the site back in the day before Bleacher Report started hiring all the professional writers, it was some of the worst stuff I'd ever read in my entire life. Like they were just awful, and these people were getting paid, and it was just like, ugh, so horrific.
Jerod, is there any time frame on the Chat Mob T-shirt announcement stuff that we're looking at? There have been a couple questions in the chat. No,
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like the people that we know or hear all the time, we let them know, and then send them the link, and then we can figure out kind of the future. Trying to keep those exclusive, we can kind of figure out how people get inducted into the Chat Mob. But
okay, and Chad's working on getting a list and stuff too, right?
We get to haze them, right? Like that was part of the agreement, is that we get to like line them up and.
They need to send in a video.
No, we'll bring people on Assembly Call After Dark. We'll get to know them a little bit. We'll make this a fun thing. So cool. Yeah. And
as long as they don't do the stuff that Monmouth was doing on the bench, that's the bench mob stuff.
No. This is much cooler and classier than that.
Yes. All right, I gotta get going. Gotta get going.
Yeah. Yes. It's sometimes when you say that, it's hard to tell what's a drop and what's you actually.
Yeah, no, that's me for real right now. Actual human saying it.
All right, I gotta get out of here, folks. Thank you.
Yeah, right. I gotta do that.
We will see you all. Oh man, we don't have another show till Thursday. Okay, I'll talk to you guys Monday on Banner Morning, and then we'll talk Thursday night for AC Radio.
Later, guys.
See y'all. Thanks for being here. See you, Coach.
Yep.
See you, Ryan.